Okay, today's seminar is all about, what you should be doing the moment you start your first job. Okay, your first 6 months especially is a crucial juncture in your engineering career, and how you perform during that time, it could be the difference between whether you're beginning your career or finding yourself back on the job market. Okay, so today we have two engineering leaders who have decades of career success and are going to teach you what you must do and what you must know to hit the ground running. Okay, and plus, we're even going to go a little beyond that and cover a little bit of what it takes to be a great project manager. Okay, your speakers today are Clark Rucker and Jim Froof. Okay, Clark Rucker is the former director of Phantom Works Quality at the Boeing Company. Rucker led the overall strategy, program integration, management, and personnel development of the Phantom Works Quality organization across the Boeing Company. Rucker is a member of the Dean's Leadership Board and the college's Hall of Fame 2019 class. Jim Froof is the former founder and CEO of Froof Custom Plastics, Inc., and for over 35 years, the company has served a diverse client base, which includes Tesla, SpaceX, Boeing, Honeywell, and many other Fortune 500 companies. Froof has also consistently recruited engineers from Cal Poly Pomona in the last 15 years, and he recently sold his company to a merger and acquisition group in Pennsylvania. He's now happily retired and enjoys spending his time mentoring Cal Poly Pomona engineers like yourselves. Okay, so Froof is also a member of the Dean's Leadership Board. And so without further ado, take it away, Clark.
All right, sounds good. Hey, I want to welcome everybody. Hopefully that those of you that are on the call, go to the next slide if you would, please, Chris. Those of you that are on the call, you should know Jim and I, we've been on campus quite a bit. We have talked to many of you students already in various different forums and had the opportunity to get engaged with you. But, I want to take you back for a second just to kind of quickly cover the stuff that has been talked about in this entire series, this stuff they don't teach you in school series. We started out with a creating a quality CV, curriculum vitae, AKA resume class. That class told you guys and talked to you guys about how, you need to get some stuff together to put in your resume that would make you more desirable to the company, to the hiring manager, and certainly to the recruiter. From there, we went into the preparing for an interview session where we talked to you guys a little bit about what kind of things you need to do to get yourselves ready for an interview, how to prepare for the interview, how to conduct the interview, questions that you might ask during the course of the interview, and also questions that are going to be asked of you during the course of the interview. And then in that course also, I believe there was a section on creating an elevator speech or elevator pitch. We're going to talk about that a little bit today because it's an important piece that you ought to follow up on. The next course talked to you about follow-up skills and closing the deal, how to negotiate a good salary. And Chris Diaz and let's see, who's the other presenter was on that one? Was it Mike? Was it you on that one?
No, it was Tom Van Dorn.
That's right. Tom Van Dorn did a great job talking about the follow-up skills and how to close the deal. But now what Jim and I are going to do for you today is we're going to tell you, okay, now that you've gone all through that and you got yourself in the door at the company, you've negotiated your salary, they're going to be paying you this big 6-figure salary that you negotiated. What do you do once you get in the door, when you're sitting at your desk? How do you take care of the first 6 months? How do you take care and ensure that your bosses and all the people that you're working with and working for are seeing and getting the best value that they feel that they should be getting from you in the job? So that's really what our course is going to be about. And I can tell you right now, Jim and I are excited to give it to you. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay, team, this is our bio, and Chris has already introduced it. I want to just make a note that I'm a farm kid from Ohio. None of my parents, no golden spoons, no favorite treatment, and no country club. First generation. And for all those that are on this presentation right now, I hope you have a blank paper and a pencil or a pen, because the most important things that you're going to do is write down or get from Chris our email addresses, because both Clark and I love to reach out and help you. And it's all about starting out this presentation with questions and notes and things that you can revisit when you are rethinking and going over, because the 3 presentations prepared you for this one, but now is the meat of it. And this is the payoff one.
Absolutely. So you guys know us. Like I said, we have been around campus quite a bit. So we're going to go on. You should know everything about us that's on this slide. Next slide. So here's
Course agenda, hit folks.
Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Folks, things in the first 6 months, and I want to reinforce relationships. And in your first 6 months, you have a chance to either make it or break it, do it or don't. You've got to know where you're going and what you're going to do. And in that relationship, it's all about building the relationships, just like you're spending the time right now on this. A number of your cohorts are not doing this now, and they're not getting the benefit of people like Clark and myself giving back to you of our experiences of years and years of trying to figure it out. We figured out where we fit in, and that got us to where we go. And we're hoping to give that to you, Clark.
So yeah, we want to make sure that you understand how to create value in your position, what your value proposition is to the company and to your team. We also want you to know what you can do to continue developing your career path. Continuing that career path development is so important. You can't just stop once you get the job. So we're going to give you some pointers on that. How to deliver an effective presentation. I think the main, Jim and I would agree, and I think Mike would also agree, that one of the best things that you can do for yourself is be a good presenter. Learn to be a good presenter. And that's in front of a room full of people. That's also maybe in a small room with a group of peers, or that's maybe just with your boss. But learning how to be a good presenter is very important. And then, as Chris stated and Jim stated, we're going to hit a project management essentials section that's going to give you tips on if you're ever a project manager, a project leader. Some of you that on this call might be on teams at Cal Poly Pomona where you actually lead a section of the vehicle build, or you lead a section of the design, or whatever the case may be. We're going to give you tips on how you can be a better project manager for that. And if you're never going to be, or if you're not going to be a project manager currently in your job, how you can help your project manager be better at their job. Next slide. So Jim, I'll start us off. Or I'm going to start us off on this one, or
Yep.
are you?
Go ahead, jump on
Okay,
it.
great. So first slide, I got the job. What's next in your first 6 months? We feel that, and Jim and I have seen, and others we've seen, I got to tell you, before I even get started on this slide, when we created these slides and sent them out to the other professionals that are not only in the Dean's Leadership Board, but out there in the working environment, we got feedback from every one of them that said, yes, this is exactly the stuff that we need our new candidates and new employees to know. So without, putting any candy coating on it or whatever, everything that you get in these slides is really the stuff that you're going to need to do and think about when you get that job. In your first 30 or 60 or 90 days, you're going to have to sit down with your manager and try and establish a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Ask them, can we establish a regular cadence of meetings, maybe every week, every other week, maybe once a month? What is their leadership style? Wouldn't it be nice to know, are they hands-on type leaders? Are they standoff leaders? Are they going to guide you? Are they going to mentor you? What 5 to 10 things can you do in your first 30 days that'll help prepare you for your next 30, 60, or 180 days with the company? And that first 90 days in the company typically is your probationary period. The company is evaluating your skills, your knowledge, and how much value you can add. If you don't show them and let them know right then and there in that first 90 days that you have something to offer them, you might not make it through that first 90 days. So how can you learn while you're being productive on the work that that they've given you? These are tips that you need to ask your manager. What does the great performance look like to them? They're certainly that they've been there for a long time. They know what a first-class job looks like, a first-class report looks like, a first-class product looks like. You got to ask that question. And then once you find out what the answer is, you've got to emulate it. And then last but not least, what are the key accomplishments that they'd like to see you have in this role over the next 30, 60, and 90 days? Those tips that we gave you right there, if you can do those things in your meeting with your boss in the first 30 days that you're in the company, those things will by far give you an advantage over anyone else that's not doing these things. Jim?
Yeah, continuing on what Clark just said, team, you have to be an idea generator. You have to come up with solutions, or you have to come up with ideas. One of the benefits and powers of Cal Poly is that you already have been exposed to project management or teamwork. There's a reason that I recruited extensively through Cal Poly, and that's because the students that came from your school were ready to hit the road running when they came onto the job. What I'd like to add to that, and it's beneficial to all of you, whatever job you're going at, is you got to learn the organization process. You got to know who's around you, what they're doing, where they're at. And I'm not trying to say you're kissing up to management or playing the management game, but if you don't know who's around you and who's in power and what they do, then you're never going to get where you're going to go. You don't know the roads to get there. Then once you know those people and relationships, last item on this, develop your communication skills. You got to be willing to speak up. You got to be willing to contribute. You got to be willing to have an idea. Those are the people that get ahead. The 5 engineers that I hired before I sold the company, all 5 of them after 2.5, 3 years moved on, and all of them moved on into what Clark said earlier, 6-figure numbers. And it starts with the education that you got from Cal Poly. Last item on that is learn how to connect the dots. And that's really what we're teaching you, is connecting the dots with people, with your ideas, being proactive and speaking up.
We're going to talk more about that later on. Go ahead to the next slide, Chris. Jim, you're up.
Go ahead, Clark.
Or did we lose you? Okay, here
Org chart. Back,
yeah.
Similar to what I was saying earlier in people skills. Yes, the people from USC or UCLA can be in fraternities and sororities, but what they can't have is the meat of your course studies and what Cal Poly has given you. Now you take that and tie it into the org chart and building your relationships. You are steps and steps ahead of anybody else in their first 30, 60, and 90 days, because you have the value of your education, and now you're learning today. And let me paraphrase this. If you have a question, please raise your hand or jump in, because we're here to answer it as we go along. We don't have to wait till the end of it. The second part of this one is, if you're going to know where you're going, you have to know the rules, and that's the policies and procedures. Not knowing them or understanding them only can cause damage to your future career. This first job that you have is really it's really the key to the start of where you're going to go.
Yeah, so I like to jump on what Jim was just talking about regarding policies and procedures. I put this slide in here on company policies over there on the right. You ought to read that 6 days slide. If you can make it to a doctor's office, you're not going to be allowed a sick day. You should be able to get into work. Just kidding. All right, we're just kidding. But bottom line is, know your company's policies and procedures. If your team has flow charts or diagrams for how work is accomplished within the team, you should try to read them and understand your role and how you get things done. Learning who your suppliers are. So everybody has in their job, everyone, I mean, bar none, has people that provide them materials or data or information. And then they have people that they provide data and information or materials and product to, right? You need to understand and know who those suppliers are that provide you the data and information that you need to go do what you need to do. And then who your customers are that you go deliver it to. Why is that so important? It's not only important to know who they are, but also what their expectations are of the quality of your work. So understand those things, know them, and try and think about that as you're working. And then I'll hit the last bullet, Jim. Due diligence, work expectations. You know, I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but I want you guys to understand, every job, every company, every business, every team might have different expectations for your workday. It might be a 5-day work week. It might be a 4-day work week. It might be virtual. It might be in the office. It might be a strictly 8-hour day with some lunch breaks and some in-between coffee breaks. I know a lot of people that used to work that way. It might be a 10-hour day with little time for lunch. It might be a 60-hour work week with overtime availability for those who have heavy workloads. I know Jim's probably had a lot of those. I know Mike's probably had a lot of those, and I definitely have had a lot of those. And then there's the last one. Call home and tell them that you might see them next month. Let me tell you, some of us have had days like that too, okay? Next slide.
Ask the question of your peers and your manager, what does success mean? That's a very interesting and pertinent item. You can't know where you're going, again, unless you know where you're heading. And and building this relationships that we're talking about over and over comes with relationships with your manager or your work environment or your organization chart. And the second item on there, listen, listen, listen. I said earlier, you got 2 ears and you have 1 mouth, probably because you should listen twice as much as what you talk, if not more. New on your job, you're going to take inputs from many, many people, some above you, some beside you. It's up to you then to decipher which one of those is useful as you go forward, but always listen to the people above you, know who they are. When you get them on elevator and they're side by side, you want to know who they are, what their name is, and maybe a little bit about them.
I'll hit the next couple bullets, Jim, and then you can close us out. Every team has a dynamic, how they all work together and how they get along. A lot of teams, most teams have those go-getters, the people that really are there to try to excel. They come up with ideas, they try to help the team, they try to do the things that they need to do to be to provide successful and good products. Then we have those folks on the team that are just really here to collect a paycheck. I got to tell you, working for me, I've had both types, and those folks that were there to collect the paycheck did not last long working for me. I can tell you that right now. So in your initial 90 days to 1 year with a firm, you really cannot afford to be considered in that latter group. You want to be the person that's identified as the value contributor and the go-getter. Asking questions can help you do that. It can endear you to some of your teammates, to your bosses, even the people that work for you. If you happen to be a manager or a leader, ask questions. Ask them things about what they're doing and about how you can do better as a leader or as a manager if you need to. They're going to see you as someone that wants to learn, and they may either take you under their wing or they'll certainly believe in you. But don't ask the same question over and over. I got to tell you, I've had some of those employees too, right? So you told me last month that I need to do this, but I don't remember what was it you told me to do? Because what's going to happen is they're going to start thinking and wondering, are you the right person for this job? And you don't want that to be a thought of you.
The last item on there is sharing your ideas and products with your teammates. Each one of the engineers over the 15, 20 years that I hired them, each one that made it successful either within my organization or moved on and stayed in contact with myself, they were team players. They made everybody around them as successful as they themselves were. They were not glory hogs. They weren't out on an island. They made the team stronger than they themselves were. Once you're out on your own and you're looking for the glory for yourself, you will fall, and you will not be viewed by management as a future promotion.
Excellent point, Jim. And I want to point this out also. Some of you are going into internships. You may not be going into full-time positions. These bullets that we're giving you are just as important for an internship as they are for a full-time position. So take heed. Next slide, please, Chris. Jim, you want to hit this one first?
Did it go to the next slide here?
Yeah. Value creation is the one.
Got it. Yeah. Previous slides undoubtedly assist you. I have to weigh in here quick. I understand not everybody here is getting ready to graduate and go into their job. They may be younger, as in sophomores or juniors even, but it's such value that you're willing to learn this now because you got time. You got time on your side. Those of you that are graduating, looking for your job, you still have time on your side, but you got to put this into effect sooner, not later, because you're going to be on the big stage. You're going out there. Idea generation is the second item, and a company's hiring you for one thing and one thing only, and that is your ideas, your contribution, and contribute to get their objectives done. Ask yourself each day, what else can I do? How much more can I do? And how can I get my team involved in doing it? You will shine instead of off on an island by yourself. Never forget to deliver your current commitments before you accept responsibility for another one. And that one's very, very important, this third slide item, because if you fail on the one that you got, just so you can get another one, you're looked at as somebody that can't finish what you got on your plate. And you got French fries and hamburger on your plate, but what you really want steak. So you let the French fries and hamburger go, in order to get the steak, and the steak doesn't come because they're still wondering why you haven't done what you've been served. So there's a correlation.
I love your correlations, Jim. Let's see. And then, of course, we all encourage you to be team players, reach back, help others. Actually, this bullet that came next on the proactive, I want you to know that my daughter who is in probably 4 years into her job right now, sent me this bullet. And I thought, wow, this is a great bullet to share with others. It's okay to try, you might fail, but really make sure to raise your hands and try to take that first stab at something, even if you don't feel qualified enough yet. I can tell you most definitely that, and she told me that many of the jobs or many of the opportunities that have come her way came because she tried and she raised her hand. And so, this is a really good bullet for you to understand. Also, when you're sending your ideas to others for feedback, try to address the areas where you think something might need to be changed. It lets them know that, hey, you're thinking about, you're not just trying to pick their brain, but you have ideas as well. So general rule of thumb that I'm sure Jim and I and Mike have used in the past, when an opportunity comes up for somebody to take on additional assignment, put your hand in the air and wave it like you just don't care. These are the teammates that leadership is seeking for special projects and advanced opportunities. Next slide. Career development is the next slide, Jim.
Yes, discuss your performance early and often. Know where you're going, know what you're going to do and how to get there. Don't go into a conversation with your boss or even your fellow teammates with a chip on your shoulder. Get ready to learn, become a better you, but become a better contributor to the task at hand. You're only going to be there 2 to 5 years. So how about contributing the max that you can, because that will then follow you and it will build the credibility that you have on the current job, as well as set the course and the learning for your future performances. Ask the question, how can I be a better and more effective employee? You'll find that is well serving to keep you humble, as well as earlier charts we said, know your organization chart and your relationship. If you become humble and you become questioning to self-improvement, it's a winner-winner, both of those items. Clark, mentoring?
Yeah, so the next 3 bullets really talk to ways that you could continue your career development while you're at your company. The number one idea is see if there's a mentoring program at the company. It's a great way to not only establish relationships with other folks in leadership, but it also gives you the opportunity to learn more, to do more, to learn other effective techniques that other people have used. And also, of course, your mentor can give you a really unbiased feedback on your talents, as well as some of your deficiencies. So this bullet is really important if you can establish a good mentoring relationship, not only with your boss, but people outside of your organization as well. Jim?
I'm going to jump on the next one, and that says investigate a company that has a education program or sponsoring. It goes even further than that. If you're going to join a company and they're not going to invest in you, then why are you there investing in them? Try to find an opportunity that makes you better. When I graduated with a bachelor's degree, I thought for sure I was going to continue on in an MS, Master of Science in Engineering. But the company invested in me and sent me to school to learn work study and material flows and time study and industrial engineering principles. And I used those as an education, but what I really wanted to do was get my MBA instead of a MS, and they sponsored that. They sponsored that because I was with them for 11 years and contributed back, but they paid for it. So I really am, that's a heartfelt item on this. Find a company, small or large, that you can grow with, and they want you to grow with them.
Absolutely. In fact, I just like you, Jim, I got my executive master's through Boeing. So very much support that idea. Last bullet on the slide, is there a company sponsored rotation program? Sometimes students get into companies and they say to themselves, like, for example, in business, there are so many different facets of business management. There's a financial side, budget side, scheduling side, you name it. I mean, there's just so many different things that you can do it in the business management world that you have to ask yourself, what side do I like? What side do I fit in? What do I want to really work on? And many times there are rotation programs inside companies that allow you to work maybe 6 months in one area, 6 months in another, or 3 months, or whatever the number is, so that you can understand and get to know all the various different aspects of a job. And then you make a decision on which one you want to stay in. So I know Boeing has had that. I know a couple other, Northrop, Raytheon, and Lockheed. I know that they have those programs. I'm sure Proof Plastics probably had that program. And so I guess I would say, if you have the opportunity to get into a rotation program and you're not really sure, what part of engineering you want to be in, or what part of let's see, most of you are engineers, but there's business programs or whatever. You can get in that rotation program and you can see all of the facets of the program. And
one of the things on this, Clark, students I'd like to weigh in on, and it's probably this slide here is got the most meat of it, of this whole presentation, because it, at the end of it, mentoring is one item. The education that the company you work for puts back into you, or that you seek out and they pay for. And then the final thing is rotation of work assignments, because you become rounded out and well-versed in a number of areas. What this leads to is what I call clarity. And the clarity is that after 1, 2, and 3 years, you think different, you act different, and you are different than many of your coworkers, because you're looking at 360-degree travel of it's kind of like you're out in space and looking down at Earth instead of on Earth looking around and part of the ants. And that clarity comes, and once you have it, it's life-changing. It's something that I hope for each one of you to find early in your career.
Next slide, Chris. All right, here we go.
How can I be a top-notch employee?
Yeah.
This one says it all. Clark, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is really the meat. Well, besides what Jim just said regarding the educational part and the mentoring and all that. A lot of times, we know that giving presentations can be uncomfortable for some people. Standing up in front of a room, in front of a bunch of people that you may or may not know, sometimes it's difficult, and we understand that. But here's the thing. Presentation skills, you need to really work on them. You gotta have and try to incorporate, some of these tools and techniques that might help your presentation skills early in your career, because they're not only going to help you be a better employee, they're going to help get you noticed by executive or leadership. They're also going to help you sell your ideas and be more instrumental and value contributing to your team. I mean, all of these things that you do and want to do in your career really kind of hinge off of being, a good presenter, having a good dialogue. So having good, effective presentation skills are really essential. You got to be good at engaging your audience and what's important. You got to be able to convey the message that they need to take action, and then to show how the actions are going to lead to some improvements or benefits in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of classes that you can take to learn effective presentation skills. Public speaking, Dale Carnegie, Toastmasters. But the bottom line to good, effective presentation is really these things, these 5 items. Jim, you want to hit them?
Yeah, and interesting on this slide, again, back to what I said, when you're up in space and looking down on Earth, you see the big picture. When you're on Earth, you're just part of the ants in the treadmill. And not until I got involved in Dale Carnegie, Junior Achievement, Rotary, Boy Scout, a mentorship, giving back to the local church group, rubbing elbows with people that are the next generation older than you are right now. That's where you learn, team. That's where you learn who's what, where, and when. And you're all of a sudden viewed as, wow, this guy or this gal, they think different. They're not like the normal. They want to contribute more. They want to grab the moon and rise to their top, to the highest. And I need you to improve on that, or put that into mind, because that's how you're going to get where you want to go when you're 25 years old and then 30. The world is your stage. And now is the time to develop those. Chart your path and you'll get there.
So know your audience.
Last item on there, it's difficult to move up if you're never heard. Make yourself heard in a positive way.
Yeah, Jim, I want to hit these 5 bullets because I think it's important for them to know, how to
Go
give
ahead.
good, effective presentations. Many students have told me that they have a hard time sometimes standing in front of people, talking, etc. And really what it's about is if you know your audience, who your audience is, if you think, for example, you're a student in a class and you're doing a presentation to your team and the team lead or even your faculty advisor is standing in the room, who's your audience? Is the audience really your team or is the audience your faculty advisor? Think about that. Know who your audience is and be prepared to present to your audience. And then secondly, know your subject matter. If someone were to ask you a question, think about this. Someone were to ask you this question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. That's all they're asking. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And then you start talking and telling them, oh yeah, my name is Joe. I do this, I do that. I have this, I have that. I'm a mechanical engineer at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm studying this, I'm studying that. I'm on this team, I'm on that team. I'm a project leader on such and such, right? Are you going to be nervous going through that? The answer is no. Why? Because you know your subject matter. You know yourself. So if you're giving a presentation, plan on knowing and rehearsing and understanding your subject matter, and you will not, I guarantee you, you will not be nervous. Have an opening statement that matters, provide supportive rationale behind your opening statement, and then make sure that your closing statement makes you or makes your audience feel compelled to go do something that you've asked them to do. Those are the key 5 points to a successful presentation. Next slide. Okay, Jim, I'm gonna hit this slide right real quick.
Project management.
So this whole section that we've got in here on project management is really focused on if anyone asks you to lead a team or lead a project, these are the skills that an effective project manager really needs to have. Some of you might be project managers now, are project leaders now, some of you might be project leaders in the future. So these tips are really for you. Others that may not be a project manager or leader now or might not have any interest in going in that direction in the future, what these bullets and charts will do will help you assist whoever your project manager or leader is to identify the things that they should consider to make the team and the product more efficient and more effective. Next slide.
Every one of your jobs, team, every one of your jobs involves some form of another of project management, where you have to set objectives and know your constraints, develop your concept, plan your team's work, execute the plan, and the other 3 items on here. And it's interesting, my comparison on this is, okay, team, you're going to drive to Las Vegas this weekend and you're going to get back. You have to know who's going, how far it is, how long it takes to get there, how much money you got, and hopefully that you win when you go gambling. But if you lose, let's hope that you have enough money to put gas in the car or electric when you charge it and get back here because you got class again on Monday morning. So in project management, in each one of your careers going forward, this covers really what a company is going to be expecting of you. You're able to manage a project, and it comes in many different forms and fashions.
Next slide. Okay, Jim.
I like this one, team, because it draws back. It draws back to the very early one where your organization and you want to know who's above you, who's beside you, and who's underneath you. Even that correlates to project management with this slide, where you want to know who's with you, who's above you, and who's underneath you in order to accomplish a goal. It's relationship building. It's being part of a team. It's making the team the winner, not you the winner, wherever you might slot into this org chart. This is the way you think on project management, and it's a pictoria of what your task is going to be in front of you.
So every box on this slide is someone that is important to the team, and you as the project leader need to identify who they are and what their role is, as Jim just stated. Next slide. You should also understand what the customer's most important requirements are. This slide really is focused on making sure that, if you're a project leader or project manager, you had that dialogue with your customer, and that customer has already set, established for you what those requirements are that they really, really, really need to have met. So you've got to baseline those things, those customer MIRs. And once you baseline them, then you got to focus your team on performing to them. everyone has a team on the team has a set of requirements for whatever they're going to be. On your team, you might have mechanical engineers, you might have electrical engineers, you might have electromechanical engineers, etc. Everyone has a set of things that they need to go do on their team, right? And that they're going to follow and adhere to. But the end goal is to come up with a product that meets the customer's most important requirements. Sometimes MIRs might have cost constraints, which could limit your team's ability to provide all of those customer needs. And those things are going to have to be negotiated by your business personnel, which can be a lengthy process, but it's really necessary to make sure that everyone's on the same page with meeting those customers' most important requirements. Jim, you want to add anything there?
No, you got it. You got it good. It's right point blank.
Okay. Next slide then, Chris.
This one I'll jump on, and what you see in front of you, students, is a pictorial, left to right, color coded, and it's in your career. These pictorial progress, identifying lead times, identifying the MIRs, the end data. This is going to be your tool. This is your picture. This is your progress. You're going to be asked to have this presentation. Clark had mentioned it earlier on presentation, verbal presentation. This is a pictorial presentation. You're going to need this kind of tool in order to show management or your teamwork where we're at, where we're going, how we're going to get there. And we're not going to end up in Vegas out of money, having gambled everything and hitchhiking back to get to class on Monday.
Or in the Palm Desert with a suntan like Jim is right now.
There you go, team. There you go.
Next slide. Financials and budget. Obviously, you're not going to do well if you don't manage your financials and your budgets, right? So all project and program managers really need to know what kind of contracts they're working to. There are really two basic kind of types of contracts, fixed fee contracts and cost plus fixed fee. Fixed fee contract basically is a negotiation with a customer saying, we want to buy this airplane and this is what we're going to pay you, period. No ups, no downs, no extras. Cost plus fixed fee is, okay, we want to buy this plane for this much. And by the way, if it costs you additional, $100,000 or $200,000 to build it, or from your suppliers or whatever, we'll pay that too. So those are the two types of contracts that you can get into as a program manager. And you need to understand the differences between the two, because if you get locked into a fixed fee contract and you have cost overruns, guess what? Those cost overruns are coming out of your pocket, not the customer's pocket. Staffing, manpower considerations, what type of people you need, how many people you need, how long do you need them? Suppliers, obviously you're going to have suppliers providing you products and parts. So you need to understand what they can do, what their capabilities are. If there are material cost overruns, who's going to be responsible for them? I just kind of told you that the answer to that question. And then this management reserve bullet at the bottom. Most program managers are given a management reserve, or at least they try to hold a management reserve. Basically what that is if you've got a project that you're managing with a team and the customer say, I'm just going to throw rough figures at you. Customer says, I'll pay you $100,000 to build this product. Okay, well, I want to take maybe 5,000, maybe 10,000 of that 100,000, and I want to put it in a management reserve fund so that if I have any cost overruns later, I could pull that money from management reserve to pay for overtime if I need my people to work overtime, or I could pay for additional parts from a supplier who hasn't delivered on time. That's what a management reserve is about. So really, this chart is kind of like I said, it's focused on understanding and knowing how to run your financials and your budgets as a program manager. Jim, anything to add there?
No, excellent. All the way through. Excellent. Next slide. Go ahead, Clark. Done for.
All right. On the suppliers and vendors, obviously, if you're going to have suppliers as a program manager, you need to identify them as early as possible. Make sure that they're credible, because having bad suppliers can cost you your reputation, can cost the company their reputation, and will certainly tick off your customers. So making sure that you have good suppliers, you identify them early, make sure that they can deliver in accordance with your schedules. And then if you can, in fact, it's not even if you can, you definitely need to meet with them early and often to verify that and validate that they are adhering to the requirements that have been flowed to them by you and your team. If you have a supplier out there that doesn't understand what your requirements are and delivers you a product at the end of all that time that you thought that they were delivering you something, For example, you contract them for a Mercedes Benz and they deliver you a Volkswagen, you have a problem. So you got to make sure that they understand that. Okay. Next slide.
Good project manager always knows when to state that they need help. Don't ask, but yes, I could use some help. And in recruiting students over the years, sometimes they were this poor dog that got up there and they want to know, how do I get down? And a good employer will make sure you don't fall from a predicament like this.
Yeah. Next
Team,
slide.
I think we got you over to Vegas. You are the top of the class because A, you're willing to do this on a Friday afternoon. Number two, you joined a great education school like Cal Poly, and we need each one of you to be successful for the next generation to take over this world of engineering that grows to then management and grows to successful project managers as well as future leaders of industry.
Good points, Jim. Next slide, Chris. We're going to try and close this out now. I'll talk to the first four. Jim, you can talk to the last four. It's really not rocket science. It's just common sense. But sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, you can kind of forget these things. But if you want to be a good project manager, you want to be a good engineer, you want to be a good financial person, you want to be a good whatever you want to be, these are the things that you need to remember. Jim kind of talked to this first one earlier. Help others be successful. Don't just think about you. Think about other people on your team and try to help them in their job. Be self-aware, be yourself and stay grounded. Don't, try to get out there and do things that are going to put you in a position where you could fail. Be part of the solution, not the problem. Can't tell you how many teammates and employees that I've had where I come in and we come in with an idea and the team's all grooving and somebody says, oh, that's not going to work because that's not, and that's not. And it's like, come on. Help us out. If you say it's not going to work, then tell us what will work. Okay. Be part of the solution, not the problem. And then last bullet I'm going to talk to, remain optimistic. It's infectious, but the opposite is also true. Jim?
Yeah, you may state that you're not perfect. The good news is no one else is either. But I'm telling you, if you've gone to Cal Poly and you're on this lesson tonight, you're head and shoulders above a whole bunch of others because the school that you went to and the willingness that you're wanting to learn, and you have been prepared to attack this. Just because you got the first 4 years done, or you're a sophomore or junior and you got 2 years ahead of you, don't think that it's over. Stretch, learn, and grow. Like it says here, if you're comfortable, you're probably sitting in the chair and you should be on the basketball court. It says later here, if you're not taking a shot, then they're not risking anything and you're not going to contribute if you don't take the shots. Are you going to miss? Yeah, you're going to miss. But keep taking the shots. We in industry and American manufacturing, American business, we need people that are willing to take a shot. We've rolled around a lot of ideas, team, and a lot of subjects, and it goes from building relationships, believing in yourself, and we summarize it with the future is yours. What you're going to do is up to you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to send Clark or myself. You can get that email from the Cal Poly. We are easy to find, and if we get 100 of them, I promise you, I will answer, and so will Clark. Every one of them, if we get 100. If you reach out, we're here to help you. We need you to succeed. But folks, you got to put the first foot forward. If you're going to Vegas, bring your money, bring your bank account, and let's go play blackjack.
Next slide, Chris. I think this is the last slide in the presentation. So Jim, you want to talk about the reinvesting?
Yeah, I like this one, and I like the very first one, being on time. Team, if you are not early, you're late. If the meeting starts at 9 o'clock, you don't get there at 9 o'clock, you get there at 5 till or 10 till. You got to be early to be on time. Clark?
So yeah, make sure that as it states on the slide, enjoy your life, work hard though. Don't ever take things for granted. Don't accept mediocrity. Always try to strive to be the best you that you can be, because Your management is watching you, your team is watching you. And guess what? If you're a leader or a program manager, they're watching you. And so, you want them to be the best, right? Everyone wants them to be the best. So you got to be the best. If you're lucky, like Jim and I, and you can find a job that you're really passionate about, a career that you really want to work in, you'll never work a day in your life. So find your passion, dive into it, and make sure that you pay attention to those 10 things that require zero talent: being on time, making an effort, being high energy, having a positive attitude, being passionate, using good body language, being coachable, doing a little extra, working that few extra hours, being prepared, and having a strong work ethic. Chris, I think that's the last slide, right?
Questions, team?
We have some time left.
Yep, we have some time left. Thank goodness, because we have a few good questions here. And I'll just
Good.
start from the first question coming down. So Mohammed is asking, as a freshman, this is a two-part question. As a freshman, I am still learning about my aerospace career. When is the best time to start looking for a job? I want to make sure that I'm prepared and experienced before taking that job. How do I know which job is better for me and for my career? And to this question, Mike answered in the chat saying, it is never too early to look for work. As a freshman, if you find part-time work or internship opportunities that do not get in the way of completing your education, you should consider doing that. Anything else to add, Clark and Jim?
I've got just a quick one on that. I would say the last couple slides in this deck really address that from my perspective. Mohammed, I would say figure out what you're passionate about. As a freshman in college, hopefully, you spent some time in high school, because you wouldn't be at Cal Poly if you didn't. You spent some time in high school figuring out where your passion is. Or I'm going to give you a quick example, right? So I'm 5'10", between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. And I'm taking apart lamps. I'm taking apart radios. I'm taking apart stuff at my mom's house. And my mom's getting upset with me. She's like, Clark, why are you taking so many things apart? Well, I was always fascinated by technology. When I'd open those radios up and I'd see those transistors and I'd see the resistors and the diodes and all that stuff in there, I was like, wow, how does that work? How did that make that radio work? When I would see airplanes take off, I was like, how does that airplane get up in the air? How does a helicopter fly? I was always fascinated by those things. And guess what? It was that passion in me that drove me to be an engineer. So whatever you're passionate about, whatever drove you to be where you are, whatever your degree is at Cal Poly Pomona, figure that out early and then dive into it. I guarantee you'll never work a day in your life. How do you make it happen? Try to find an internship. I know I can tell you at least 5 people I can name that in their freshman year became interns at aerospace companies. And it was in the area that they were passionate about.
And let me add that to that real quick, is while you have the journey of your freshman through senior year, do things, be involved in things, join things, get on board of clubs and associations in the area you want to be in. Cal Poly is dripping with aerospace and professors. Get to know them, get to know what classes they teach. Start early. Don't wait till your senior year to do this. Use the time to your advantage, Mohammed.
Okay, our next question comes from Gerardo. And he asks, I have been working at an internship for 8 months now. I talked to my project manager and it looks like I'm hired on because the internship was only for the summer, but I'm not sure what the next steps should be. Should I sign a new contract as a new hire?
Do you like the company? Do you want to stay there? Do you like the job?
Do they give back to you?
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Do they give back? Are they looking to you? Are they willing to invest in you as you invest in them? Then you got something to talk about.
Yeah, all these questions that we're asking you are questions that you should ask yourself, and sit down with your leadership. Sit down with the folks that you work for and ask them the question, hey, I've been here for 8 months. I'm thinking that I might want to stay, but I'm not really sure. Can you tell me reasons why I might want to stay? And maybe even have a conversation with someone outside the company and say, well, this is what this company is offering me. What do you guys do over here at this job and in this plant? And find out those things. Get all the advice that you possibly can. I give you the messages from Jim and I is get all the advice and inputs that you possibly can. A way that my dad used to tell me to do it was make a list of pros and cons, and whichever one has the most stuff on it, that's where you go.
Excellent point, Clark. Excellent.
Sounds good. Okay, our next question is going to be a live one. Quinn, you've had your hand raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. My question was actually related to what you said earlier about not taking on more work before we've completed our deliverables. While we're new in a position and we're still sort of like building our reputation and getting our feet under us, how would you recommend responding to a supervisor, manager, whatever, who asks us to take on more while we do feel like we need to focus on what we're doing in order to like avoid, getting the, to avoid like a negative perception?
That's
Let
a
me
really,
wait.
really good
Go ahead,
question.
Clark.
Jim, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Let me weigh in on that real quick. And it goes back to early in the slide presentation of knowing your manager, knowing the expectations, how long do they expect you to do what you got on your plate, and build a relationship, a teamwork relationship in your organization and your immediate supervisor of what's expected on this next one, because you want to be a willing participant and move the ball forward, but not at the risk of failing or half performance on the task at hand. You don't want to be looked at as a stopgap and a procrastinator if he has something new on his mind, but find out why is that more important than the success of the current situation.
Yeah, and I would offer to add on that, Quinn, is I don't know how long you've been at the job or working in this particular project, but I'll safely say that if you had established a 30, 60, 90-day plan and had the conversation with your leadership on what kind of things they want you or expect you to accomplish in that first 30 days or that first 60 days or that first 90 days, and then if they throw something additional on top of that to you, that's when you go back to that plan and you say, well, okay, I understand that you want me to do this. And you, by the way, you have this conversation in a positive, proactive way, not a negative way. I understand why you want me to do this. And I understand also, though, that it's kind of in conflict with the things that we had in our plan. So as Jim said, I need to prioritize.
Okay, so we have time for just one more question. I know we have somebody who somebody has a raised hand, but we're gonna just do this final question. But we have been saving all your questions ever since the first seminar, any of the ones that have been unanswered. And after today's seminar, we're gonna be sending all the questions I've received and send them all to the presenters in our DLB. And they're gonna answer as many of them as they can, and you'll get them back as a PDF. So to conclude today, Noe is asking, if you know there are rotation programs and you were hired for a certain position in a company already, when would be a good time during your first 6 months to show interest in another position? And in this regard, Mike Beckage says, with regard to rotation programs, if one is available, just let your boss know that you're interested in future opportunities to take advantage of the program when your boss feels the time is right. You can do that anytime and won't offend her or him. Clark, Jim, anything to add?
I totally agree. Totally agree with what Mike said.
Very good, Mike. Very good answer.
Okay. Well, that is going to be concluding today's seminar.